Hollywood's obsession about having this kind of like it's kind of standard job title, and then it being kind of code for some type of action hero, assassin, CIA agent, kind of like super agent role, mechanic, transporter, cleaner, whatever. And now we have The Bricklayer. And this one is directed by Rennie Harlin, so quite a high profile director, and stars Aaran Eckhart and Nina Dobrev. Now, the movie focuses on an ex-CIA agent played by Aaran Eckhart, who's now a bricklayer. And that is the connection to the title. He's now a bricklayer. So there you go. And anyway, he gets pulled back into the game, so to speak, when a ex-CIA agent seems to have gone rogue and is killing a bunch of people and gathering in intel, extorting people, etc. So he is sent to try and clear up this mess, as he has had a personal connection to this rogue agent in a kind of previous life, so to speak. He's teamed up with a kind of inexperienced but tenacious agent played by Nina Dobrev, and the pair of them go off to try and stop this kind of rogue agent. Along the way, there's various misadventures with the local thugs and things like this. What'll happen? You'll have to watch the movie and find out. So, will you like this movie? Let's just answer that question first. If you've never seen an action movie before, the answer is yes. If you have seen more than kind of like 2 or 3 action movies, you'll feel like you've seen it before. Anyway, let's go into a little bit more detail. Let's talk about the positives though. Aaran Eckhart, I think, is quite a kind of intriguing lead, you know. He's generally, I would say, considered to be a pretty good actor with some good, some good performances in his catalogue. And here I think he gives an earnest and believable performance as a kind of a CIA operative who is still, a likeable kind of persona, but you can kind of believe he has kind of done this kind of role. He seems, he's kind of like, he's not overly kind of like action hero-esque, but he seems, capable and smart and kind of experienced. So I think Aaran Eckhart is probably the best thing in this movie, and I think he's taken this role relatively kind of seriously. I mean, he's never kind of broken through into the mainstream as a huge star, Aaran Eckhart, but he's certainly I would say a respected actor, and he's done a few of these kind of cheaper kind of movies before. But still, I still think he kind of does the best he can with this kind of role, I would suggest. And like I say, makes for a likeable and somewhat kind of believable ex-CIA agent. So there's that. The movie has a kind of James Bond-esque kind of style, kind of globe-trotting feel to it, and it's got various kind of location shootings and chases and things like that. The action is pretty kind of fast and furious. And it's lots of kind of going on with some gunfights, fist fights, car chases, corruption, betrayals. It's kind of all there, so lots of kind of like things kind of going on. It never kind of slows down for too long, and the plot is reasonably kind of easy to kind of follow and kind of get involved with. So there's that going for it. We have things that I think people have liked before, and I'm going to come back onto this because this is going to be one of my critiques, but there are elements that I think people can kind of latch onto if we're kind of looking at a positive side of it, elements that you would have kind of you've enjoyed in other movies, so why not enjoy it in this film as well. And the production value is kind of medium, I would suggest, but there are elements here where I do feel there's lots of kind of explosions, and they're done to a reasonable kind of standard. There are some elements where I think it doesn't work quite as well, but still there are, props have to be given for what is probably somewhat of a low to medium budget. There's still some okay kind of like action sequences, set design and kind of stunts and things like that. So let's talk about what doesn't work. And the biggest problem for me is this is one of the most vanilla, bland, you've seen it all before scripts, that's been put to film. This movie I wouldn't say is necessarily bad, but it's just everything that you've seen before. It's like so many times. Let me just kind of go into a little bit more context so you kind of get what I mean. I mean, just the setup. Aaran Eckhart's character, yes, he's an ex-grumpy kind of CIA agent who is kind of out the game and has had some kind of personal issues. He's somewhat anti-authority. He wants to do his things his way, damn it. And of course he's got a kind of personal connection with a kind of our bad guy, and there's a kind of a shared trauma. Of course our kind of inexperienced, kind of a bit pretty and capable kind of like new agent. It's just very, very kind of like, it's almost like this script was written by AI. That's kind of what I was thinking when I was watching this movie. Apologies to the whoever wrote this, but it just seems like, you know, it's just taken elements for all these kind of different action movies that we've seen in the past and just gonna go, this is popular, that's popular, let's put it into a blender and churn out this kind of new film which doesn't have an original bone in its body. You know, it's just the, you know, there's a sequence, for example, where they're trying to find our bad guy, and we see that he's been spotted wearing this kind of like really obvious bad guy kind of suit with a kind of a hat and things like that, and they see him in the crowd, of course it's someone else and things like that. It's like everything you can imagine and think that's going to happen, and it does. There's the death in the story, which is kind of meant to kind of like spur our kind of heroes on and things like this, and it's just so generic. I don't want to spoil specific story points for you in case you do want to watch it. And like I've said, if you really haven't seen much in the way of kind of action films and things like that, then you'll probably enjoy it because it's probably newsy. But if you've seen more than kind of like 2 or 3 action movies, then it's all you've seen before. It's so generic. Now, what else can we say other than that? There are some kind of, as I've mentioned, the production value I would suggest is kind of low to medium. High, low to medium is the best way to describe it. But there are some elements, although I think the elements that they do well, there are elements that don't do well either. I mean, there's some horrendous green screen. There's a sequence for it where they're in a car and Nina Dobrev and Aaran Eckhart are talking. My God, they should have just shot that somewhere else. It's some of the most horrendous green screen I've ever seen. It just looks a joke. And it's not helped by Nina Dobrev like not kind of like looking like she's driving at all. It's just a terrible, terrible scene. So there are a few kind of like technical elements here that I think just betray that kind of like, it's not really that kind of high budget kind of style of movie. Maybe they haven't had the money to do much in the way of kind of like, you know, second, third takes and things like that, and just sort of move on. So there is a little bit of kind of like sloppiness. I won't say kind of like inexperienced, because Renee Harlin's obviously a very experienced director, so I'm surprised, to be honest with you, that such a kind of like mediocre product has come out from him, because he's done some good stuff. The other thing I would suggest as well, although I like Aaran Eckhart in the role, some of the other kind of actors, whilst not bad, just don't really bring much to the table. Nina Dobrev is a bit of a charisma vacuum, unfortunately. Obviously, she's most notable for TV work, and I really didn't think she added much to the movie. Her character just seems so sort of like, just nondescript and bland and kind of like just written, as I say, it's like by AI. She just seems like, oh yeah, she's like a kind of a goody two-shoes, kind of like works hard, office kind of type, and of course she kind of learns the lesson, etc. Oh man. There's just like really kind of like basic stuff here, unfortunately. So this movie, you know, it's an okay watch. It's an okay action movie. It's made well enough if you're very undemanding and you just want to kind of watch an exciting action film with a relatively kind of fast-paced plot. Then you can watch it and you kind of get some enjoyment level out of it, but it's literally nothing you haven't seen before. I know we talk about, you know, there's no original ideas in Hollywood, but my God, this one really is the pinnacle of that. So it's a bang on 5 out of 10, because it's such an average film, it deserves an average mark. So it's a 5 out of 10 for me. Have you seen it? Please do let me know what your thoughts are if you have, and I shall look.